We know that soon Brazil will have the privilege of feeding 1 billion people worldwide. But what are the challenges faced by our farmers to make that possible? Hey, my name is Nathana, and today we are going to talk about Brazilian environmental legislation and how it impacts the lives of rural farms. Brazil has a lot of lands available for farming, mineral health, drinking water, a tropical climate that favors up to 4 crops a year. It's the only country that achieves this production. In addition, as our country is rich in biodiversity, we understand the preservation of natural resources is our duty, which is why Brazilian environmental legislation is one of the most rigorous and advanced. 66.3% of the land in Brazil is set aside for preservation, and the role of farmers is decisive in environmental protection. They use only 30.2% for production. That's curious, it's a unique case on the planet. The Brazilian farmers use on average only 50% of their lands, leaving the other half dedicated to preservation. Law 12.651 of 25 May 2012, also known as the New Forest Code, established general rules on the protection of native vegetation. It also set limits on forest exploitation, control of the origin of forest products, fire preservation, and even economic and financial incentives for support. It's important to understand that the environmental laws were created with the intention of protecting the environment and reducing to a minimum the consequences of devastating actions. On the other hand, they are also the same laws that restrict the advance of exploration in areas of greater mineral wealth and potential for energy generation in the country. In the new Forest Code, one of the law's innovations was the creation of the Rural Environmental Register, CAR, and the implementation of the Environmental Regularization Program, PRA. Every farmer must be registered on CAR, which lists the data for their property. With this registration number, it's possible to identify the location of each rural property and monitor its environmental suitability status. The PRA comprises a set of actions and initiatives that the farmers undertakes to make sure their property is in compliance with all required standards and practices. Now, let's look more closely and briefly at the 3 levels of preservation. A legal reserve is a protected area that the farmer cannot economically exploit. It's to ensure the sustainable economic use of natural resources, and this preserved area can change between 20 to 80% depending on the region in the country. Think about it. You invest in the purchase of a property and you will only be able to use 20% because you are obliged to preserve 80%. A legal reserve is mandatory for all properties, but either or not there is one APP or restricted area in it depends on land itself. In a permanent preservation area, all activity is prohibited. APP concerns water sources and related landscapes, for example, floodplains, springs, watercourses, and high altitude or inclination. Restricted areas are different. They are sensitive areas, but the land can be used in a sustainable way through the adoption of good agricultural and forest practices. Bear in mind that due to our territorial extension and the great diversity that exists in Brazil, the minimum size stipulated for protected areas changes according to the location and the size of the property. For example, properties located in the legal Amazon must maintain a legal reserve area of 80% of their land, when the property is located in a forest area, 35% when it's a cerrado area, and 20% when located in old Campos Gerais areas, while other areas must keep at least 20% of their land for this proposal. Let's think together. How much less does the farm produce by reserving these areas for environmental protection? Thinking about regions with a lower percentage of preservation, that is to say 20%, and considering an average coffee production of 35 coffee bags per hectare, hypothetically, a small coffee farm in the south of Minas Gerais fails to realize 25% of its potential, while an average corn farmer in the Cerrado with 1,500 hectares, which produce 80 corn bags per hectare, will lose the potential to produce 42,000 bags of corn due to the conservation area. If we consider a large soybean farmer located in the state of Mato Grosso, where the largest landowners of agricultural production in the country are located, a farm might have, for example, 50,000 hectares with an average production of 100 bags per hectare. Then, these numbers represent the reduction in the production of 1 million bags of soybeans for farmers who have already consolidated open their areas before 2008. 1,750,000 bags of soybeans for farmers with cerrado typology. 4 million bags of soybeans for farmers with forest typology. It's worth remembering that even there were no conservation laws, no farmer would be able to produce on 100 of their land. Therefore, this hypothetical example does not portray reality, but comes with the intention of showing us that Brazilian farmers are already dedicating themselves to the environment, and you should think about this the next time you go to the grocery store. Farmers are not making as much profit as they could to preserve the environment, and maybe there should be better incentives to help them maintain their farmers and their ongoing sustainable practices. If you believe sustainability, you should be willing to pay more to compensate farmers for their sustainability practices. If your company genuinely cares about preserving the environment, then it should understand the realities of farmers in Brazil and look for motivating and supporting them. To keep learning more about the reality of Brazilian farmers and understand why the price of your food is going up, please like and subscribe.